Greetings and welcome to my dear Aquarians out there. This is Ron from Tarotofthetwinsun. I'm working here on the YouTube platform to bring a prognosis for the month of January 2025. We have a whole new year here. We're approaching your birthday, and there is a new moon energy that is activated late December in your 12th house. Okay, when this occurs, there is a strong probability, okay, of an activation of the 12th house. Here's the thing about Aquarius, especially Aquarius ascendants, suns, moons, etc. There's an activation this month that allows you, let's say, to work with structures of spirituality and to make it a sort of commodity for the general thoroughfare out there. There is a chance to tap into the spiritual community and capitalize and also create certain karmas that not only transform you but help to dissolve old patterns, old paradigms. Okay, this is an auspicious time in which the sun, especially on the 1st, will activate your 2nd house with Saturn in Pisces. Okay, and it squares up to Mercury, but it also gets a trine, a kind of trine from the 12th to the 2nd. Okay, so it's a pretty positive aspect, and it allows for, once again, for some sort of dimension of being able to sort of spell things out. Okay, for one thing, this means that you have the capacity to say things that are abstract, to channelize these concepts and to bring them into reality during the eclipse, or not the eclipse, but rather the new moon. When the sun hits the moon in your 12th house, there will be an activation there, okay, that stirs up your spiritual side, and it allows you to, let's say, create or say things that are abstract yet hold a great deal of dimensionality. This speaks of phonetics, it speaks of spells, and also it speaks of language. There's an abstract quality in which the devil's in the details. Saturn becomes activated, and your communication, especially with your brothers or sisters, or within your community, within your social network even, or if you are geared towards an academic field, your communication there would be well received in philosophizing, okay, along the lines with the physical, philosophizing with the physical, meaning that there is a science behind the words that are uttered out of your mouth that holds space and can deliver extremely profound messages. Okay, extremely. Because Pluto is on your ascendant, basically, as well as Mars, Fortune, and Venus, slightly there in your 1st house cusp within Aquarius. It's all right here. There's a possibility of importing very intense information, okay, from the other side, from the occult, from other dimensions, and channelizing this and producing something worth talking about. That's the first takeaway. Now, your ruler Saturn is in the 2nd house, okay, meaning that there's something about your family or your spiritual family, those who you are akin to in terms of soul connections, that produce a certain degree of wealth for you and produce a certain degree of comfort for you. If you can afford it, be close to family, be close to spiritual family, okay, and be close to those who you would consider to be close friends or brothers or sisters at this time. Somehow, the way Aquarius attains wealth is through the unknown, is through the infinite, and it's through connections that are based on these familiar connections, familiar familiar pathways, I want to say, with those who are supposed to be in your life, and the money flows through that. Somehow they support you in it. Okay. The dispositor of Pisces, of course, is traditionally Jupiter, and it is activating here from the first teacher to the second, the fifth house, Gemini, the gateway, the creative gateway, and there's a block between the two teachers. They're at a square. When this occurs in terms of an astrological dimension, and it activates another square here on the 11th with Mercury, there is difficulty in Saturn understanding Jupiter. But somehow Saturn is supposed to 1, 2, 3, 4 provide the home, or Saturn is supposed to provide the bedrock. Even though it's an abstract bedrock in Pisces currently, it is a bedrock nonetheless, and it helps for you to challenge yourself and produce, once again, something worth saying. Gemini is all about language. It's about mastery of certain skills. It's in Jupiter's in retrograde in Gemini, okay, with the square here, and the dispositor of Pisces is Jupiter in the fifth house, squared. That creates difficulty with certain family or close friend dynamics, or even in terms of relationships. Now is the time to go to that in which is familiar, and you will be rewarded by it with the gateway that is open during the new moon in late December, and it should produce, once again, some sort of wealth or spiritual wealth for you. Pars fortune is also in your ascendant. It's important to beautify and to look lucky and to look beautiful at this time. Naturally, you're going to have that little glint in your eye that can foresee certain things, okay, and it produces the effect of what? Mercury from Jupiter, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It produces relationships, okay, foreign relationships with the old past, with old dreams that are past. It would not surprise me if Mercury brought you old souls, something like that, old friends from the past, around this time period, and they would challenge you in terms of what you're doing in terms of your own reality. Even though your own reality is usually abstracted, you are usually intellectualizing, philosophizing, looking into the future, never really totally present or in this time and space, Aquarius. So it's an interesting dynamic. If you look from Mercury 1, 2, 3, 4 to Saturn, once again, there's something about an inward journey in which that which is said or unsaid, the abstract weight and the dimensionality of that which is spelled out, carries such a degree of weight that you can share it with those who are closest to you. Okay? They would think you're mad, but there's something in that is the mad genius, and the devil is in the detail with this new moon. Now, there also, in this time period, is a square between Pluto and Mars, which can point to, generally speaking, an escalation of war on a global climate, but it does affect you in terms of your transformation, let's call it. It's a very personal transformation. Pluto on the ascendant at 1 degree. Okay. 1.04 degrees in your 12th and first houses. There is a movement of Pluto that squares up with Mars, and Mars and Pluto, when they square up, it's actually an opposition. When they have opposition here, there's an escalation when it comes to working with others right now. It is advised you go deeply within, activate the 4th house, Uranus in retrograde as well, Neptune in the 2nd, and it allows for you to dream up or drone up a way out of this insane chaos that we call relationships, this insanely disposed chaos of relationships that is occurring with others right now. It is not important to dwell on them. However, you can learn in your relationships that you are going through a transformation, and that it will produce you with the right space to dream or drone up or to envision something at this time. Okay? So, woof, like that's a mouthful. I'm going to leave it there in terms of what's going on for January, particularly the 1st and the new moon that is activated late December. Hopefully, this reading gets you well, and happy 2025. Last thing, there is something that's going on. I don't know if it's just quiche or just a new wave, sort of trend, but people are saying that ascension, the theme of ascension is happening 2025. And of course, yes, this is supposed to be what it is. But as Aquarians, if you use the technology that we are given in terms of the Saturnian disposition and our own technology, and you fuse that technology with an ethical use that is geared towards positive outcomes in terms of timelines, this is a time to go ahead and start initiating that this year. Okay, that's all I have to say to you. Hopefully that helps. Take care. Greetings and welcome to my dear Pisces out there. This is Ron from tarotofthetwinsun. I am working through the YouTube platform to bring forward messages from and of and towards the future that have to do with the energy of Pisces. Okay, we're taking the ascendant Pisces and applying the house of houses reading. So we'll be jumping around to and from different dispositions, aspects having to do with the month of January that are triggered on the 1st of January. And also there's a new moon that is late December that we're going to focus on. And this new moon activates your 11th house here in the cusp of Capricorn. When this happens, there's a shift and there's an ability to sort of tweak timelines. Okay. The past months and the past half year, I would say, is a total and reconstructive energy that have to do with pre-existing structures in our society. Okay, especially on a global level. This has to do with the reconstitution of monies, how things are transacted in terms of businesses, how businesses are also reformatting or reworking their inner structures in order to align with Aquarian energy. Okay, and with Pluto and the moon shifting in towards Aquarius early January, there's a triggering that occurs that also will stimulate Venus on your ascendant. Okay, when Venus is on the ascendant, very closely related to your house of identity, your self-representation, how people see you, perceive you. Okay, in the cusp of Pisces, there's an activation of the 12th from Venus in Aquarius. And having the 12th in Aquarius basically means that your spirituality, your mystical path is aligned with the Aquarian age. Okay, so Pisces, in a way, comes to a sort of understanding of themselves when it comes to, like, especially future expectations of achieving an evolutionary curve in terms of the Aquarian ideal. Okay, and Venus in Aquarius is about unconditional love. It's also about interdependence, introdependence. It's about really coming up with a way to sort of be compassionate. Okay, and that is one reason why I would say there is this type of sacrifice that is being triggered this month in particular. It begins with the new moon in late December. Okay, and it flows forward and it activates certain things for you. Now, one thing that we would track in particular is Jupiter's retrograde motion in the 4th house, stimulating the cusp of Gemini, that's here, and how it triggers something. Saturn currently in Pisces, as well as Pars fortune. There's something about working with with fundamental reality, okay? The 3D world that we live in, the paradigm, the matrix, okay? And sort of taking on the burdens. This is a time where if you were to have a guru or a teacher, you can go to them, okay? And you can challenge them and show them a gateway. And you kind of take on the burden of that teacher. Okay? That means if there are seeds in terms of what's going on in terms of incarnations, people coming into this reality, young people especially, children, okay? There is a possibility to challenge these folks by how you think. 10th house, Mercury, and Sagittarius, and how you also, how would you consider yourself to be sort of the stable source of information for others, okay, to spread this information in a certain way to the seeds of humanity. So it's pretty esoteric, this reading. What I mean here is that when Jupiter and Saturn are in a square formation, there is a chance on a global level for you to define yourself, to redefine yourself as, let's say, a scapegoat. Now, what is a scapegoat? A scapegoat is someone who is like a pariah that is targeted, and sometimes they sacrifice themselves, okay? I'm talking about like your image, your persona. You let that be the medium for others to sort of go through the changes, okay? Meaning that there's something about your constitution, your health, okay, and something like your representation, your facial expressions around this time period that take on a Saturnian degree, and the two teachers come into conflict with it. That is Saturn and Jupiter. It is important to note that any sort of progress you make in terms of your own spiritual evolution will be a direct reflection of the friction point, the node in which crisis occurs upon Pisceans, okay? And it activates something for you. It activates primarily as sort of a way for you to be of service to like the curve, to be of service to the curve when it comes to the transition of certain things in society that expect a certain degree of service, like within workplaces, within value systems in the economy, within transactions, within karmic transactions within the economy. There is a sense that you are taking the brunt of it this month. It's not the easiest month, I'm telling you now. However, the new moon activates a support system, that comes and brings you the right people who are going through the same thing that you can resonate with. And as you bounce off ideas, okay, especially when it comes to your dreams that you physically embody now, the lack mentality that you have now is actually pointing also to something different, a way to be rich in a different way, okay, in a spiritual way. And it's a positive sort of thing. It's not the easiest times, let's say, for Pisceans, especially Piscean ascendants, because of the disposition of Saturn and Venus on the ascendant. Saturn and Venus usually get on well. When Venus starts to make motion, there will be something that you benefit from, beauty and grace. But right now it's important to take care of your health, to take care also of any challenges that come to career or the development of career, to know that anything that you're going through, people are going to try to target onto you as the cause or the root of like a great deal of nonsense when it comes to money or value or stuff like that. Some really 3D matrix stuff, okay? But Pisces serves as a sort of pivotal point, okay, that allows for them to almost voluntarily, okay, take on the collective angst of society and to transform it somehow. Now, when it comes to the traditional ruler of Pisces, the disposition of that, there's a house of houses reading here from Jupiter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 7. There are relationships here that are not fortunate for the common good. At least they're not sitting well with you. You have a chance now to free up those relationships, especially if those people need to go do their own thing or if their mind is somewhere else. Now is the time to essentially be the bedrock of sacrifice, to let their explorations go, to let them go, if you will, and to try to figure out the lesson in all of it. Like I said, there will be friends that come to help you around this time period, especially late December, early January. Friends and brothers and sisterhoods, spiritual people, they will come and bring this to you. They're gonna be sort of the rock, the grounding energy, the triplicity of Earth becomes very positive and supporting for you around that time. So Taurian or Capricornian people will come and bring you messages about what they're going through, and it will be sort of like a way to find the medicine for you to realign your disposition, realign your constitution, okay? So yeah, not the easiest of months. Hopefully there are some messages there that you can glean and take from. Take what you will. I do wish you well this month. All right, bye-bye. Greetings and welcome to my dear Arians out there. This is Ron from tarotofthetwinsun. I am working currently on the YouTube platform to bring a look into the future for the month of January 2025 rather, for Aries, okay, especially Aries ascendant, sun or moon. We look at the disposition of Mars in this reading as a house of houses reading, and for this month, Mars is in retrograde. There are passive actions when it comes to your ego that might get the best of you when you deal with friends, especially friends who are distant or social media. You have to be careful. There is friction when it comes to your engagement with social media and technology in general at this time. But you are able to realize certain things about your desires and dreams, which are very tightly conjunct Neptune and Rahu near the first degree of Aries, somewhat in the cusp of the 12th and the first houses of Pisces and Aries. That means that there's an ability for you to sort of clear up old energies when it comes to the transition of the old to the new, okay? That means the activation of the moon, new moon, late December, will push for you certain timelines and allow for you to, I would say, generate and embody, okay, the vehicle of your life, your presence, mostly when it comes to avatar. The idea that you can be constructed in this simulation or within the realm of the internet as a construction, okay, as a constructed subject, can come into the fore right now, and you can literally, physically embody your dreams and manifest them now. However, because Saturn is in a deep contention square Jupiter in retrograde in Gemini and Saturn is in Pisces, your 12th and 3rd houses come into contention, and also the 9th. So it's not advisable to travel at this time, unless, of course, you are traveling within your dream sequences to other realms to acquire information. You have to be careful there, because there is a tendency for you as you astrally explore certain guides that can be misguiding. Okay, that means false prophets, temporary gurus. When it comes to the web, or when it comes to the astral plane, there is a tendency for you to run into conflict with guides or mentors who are not necessarily for you. And because Saturn and Jupiter in retrograde are in square and contention, and they stimulate messages from the 9th house with Mercury in Sagittarius, you could be getting information that is not necessarily the best for you. It could be that the guru has intention, or the master has intention, but they might be of a darker form. Okay, so watch out for draconian programming at this time. You will be able to sort of pierce through the veil when it comes to that, and eventually Saturn would give you a great benefit in terms of spiritual realization in time. Okay, that is Saturn in your 12th house in the energy of Pisces. Plus, Jupiter will give you a gift once it goes direct and moves away from your 3rd. That means that there's a possibility that you can gain recognition within your community, within your friend circle, and there is a friend who will be sort of guiding you out of this troublesome time. It is advised that you rest up. There's something about you and your spiritual vehicle that is propelling further into exploration, and that is a good thing. But remember that spiritual egoism, especially in the view of a so-called master or a guru or a so-called saint or a so-called high person, can actually be a misinformant. So you have to be careful, check and double check with your sources, with their sources, with your guides. Okay. There's more. Your ruler Mars is in retrograde. Because of that, it is advised to check your creative pursuits, check your relationships, and your explorations in terms of dynamics with others, especially in romance. It is important to note that there is a transformation that has to do with the occultation of the moon. The moon becomes occulted, it becomes hidden in late December, and it's important to check your actions and eventually learn that some relationships have a certain type of structure that require those relations that require a foundation of support, of practicality, of logic, and of not so much emotion, but practicality. So make sure that your resources are topped off in terms of your own financial abundance, as well that you are able to work on the ground, be grounded in your relations with others, and not to be so clingy, or not to be so dependent on another to constitute your own happiness. Okay, that is a general reading for this month. There's much more. One more message. So when it comes to Mars, the dispositor is the Sun. When it comes to the 10th house, there's going to be light that comes. 1, 2, 3. In terms of a relationship that is very deep, profound, you have someone out there who's like a friend. They're an older soul that can help you to go through this feeling of stagnation, if there is one this month. One friend in particular. You will know them by their eyes. There's something about them that can see the future. There's like a gleam there. glint, and they have this gift, and you can use them to bring forward deep realization of some sort when it comes to this feeling of being existentially in question with the state of things, your own state of things. All right. Hopefully that has given some sort of indication of this month or the coming month, January 2025. It's a whole new year. Lastly, there is a mode of ascension that is occurring, that they say, that many people say is happening in 2025. Pay attention to transits during that time. I'll probably do a video on that. Anyways, hopefully it helps. Take care. Bye-bye. Thanks and welcome to my dear Taurians out there. This is Ron from tarotofthetwinsun. I'm working through the YouTube platform to bring forward messages from and towards the future. We are looking here at a snapshot of the first day of January 2025. And it should bring us essentially messages of what kind of activations would be occurring with the new year, especially with the new moon that has activated your 9th house around the MC. Okay. This moon is particular, the one happening in late December, and it should still be carrying on its effect from the 9th to the 10th house. That means that your career is highly stimulated, for one thing. If you need, in terms of clarity with this, it points to the occultation of the moon, the secret message of the moon, the hidden message of the moon during the time of the new moon, which happens late December. As you move forward into January, there is a sense of newness about 2025, obviously. And it is very much transforming directly on your MC. Okay? What does that mean? It means that anything that has to do with karma, when it comes to your career or when it comes to your purpose, especially in the way you make money and the way you attain authority in terms of that, is going to go through a type of shift. This means that basically if you have one line of business, you could easily begin sowing the seeds of a new type of business, or it could mean that you can also acquire a new job, a new position, or perhaps even go even further, independently start your own business. Okay? This signifies, in one perspective, a gateway that opens through the auspices of Saturn, okay, as it is triggered by the new moon. And Saturn is currently in your 11th house, dead center, in the energy of Pisces, activating, well, it's type of a collective type of information, programming that is out there, that is available for downloading. And I'm not talking about just not like plugins or software or anything. I'm talking about the grid. The metaphysical grid, not the grid that's like the enslavement narrative. I'm talking about the freedom narrative, okay? Can be accessed at this time. And it comes through someone who will be there for about 3 to 4 weeks, okay? Sun in Capricorn. Someone who has the resources, is capable of binding you into a situation or providing a sense of insight in terms of your own dream that is informed by the ether. Okay? Meaning that there are downloads happening now that prevent you from, I would say, from falling into the trap of false prophecy, okay, for one thing. Now, this means that anyone who would say anything about the global economy and someone that you would follow as a leader, either political or as a pundit, someone who sees trends, an influencer, okay, may try to misinform you at this time. And it's important to get the right sourcing, the right coding, the right downloads from the right source. How to do this? The best thing is to not let the mind, eighth house square Mercury to square Saturn to square the second house, your resources, Gemini and Jupiter in retrograde there, to sort of step back and let the sun help you program this part of January, okay? What does this all mean? It means that, 1, 2, 3, there could be a friend that's out there that's a positive influence that should bring you the correct advice, okay? It would not surprise me if a father figure came, that during the time of sacrifice in terms of Saturn, okay, the Saturnian energy of Capricorn during the holiday season, that there's something about this theme or this motif of sacrifice, of like truly giving without not an incentive for return, that someone can influence you in terms of this and put you in the right, steer you in the right direction, okay? And yes, I see it as a positive thing. Now there's more. Saturn, your ruler, is in the 11th in Pisces. There's something about a spiritual structure out there that is kind of like a mirror or kind of like the Akash. And it allows you to be informed on what not to invest in, especially when it comes to foreign markets, foreign speculations, the fear of missing out, FOMO. Yeah, and not buying into the hype when it comes to that. I'm talking here about speculation, resources, and material gains from that. You have to sort of realize that Saturn and Jupiter are in a square formation, and on a collective level, that doesn't bode too well for, I would say, traditional markets. Okay, investing in traditional markets, like the stock market. Further, Mars fortune and Uranus retrograde are on your ascendant. There is a sort of gambling motif where you can actually be rewarded in the long run if you were to invest in things that you are told to invest in. But these things that are told to you come from an instinct or an idea that is out there that has to do with the future. It has to do with the future of the way of doing things ethically in terms of your own relation to technologies and also to the capacity for these technologies to work for you in the long run. I'm talking about sustainable monies, also the future of money trends. Now is the time sort of to invest, okay, and to be told what to invest in by the right sources. You have to pay attention essentially to the dreams that are coming to you or your meditations if you do them, and you will know essentially what to invest in. This is a lucky time for you to define yourself in terms of work, in terms of Venus's good graces also. So yeah, that's what I see with it. The new moon also squares up with Mars in retrograde, Pluto and the moon conjunct the MC square your IC, Mars, okay? Ooh, which is a mouthful. There may be conflicts of finding the right way to express stresses that come from the workplace, stresses that come from the outer world, and there may be a tendency to want to retreat, become independent at this time. Remember that if you retreat and do that, like a sadhana, you have to find a way to completely be clear enough to get the right messages at the right time from the right source, okay? I'm talking about source, okay? Hopefully that helps. All right, take care. Bye-bye. Greetings and welcome to my dear Geminis out there. This is Ron from Tarotofthetwinsun. I'm working through the YouTube platform to bring a look into the future with a number of perspectives given by aspects in the month of January 1st, in the month of January 2025. This particular reading is on the 1st of January. And we will look at activations that occurred also, particularly with the new moon in that occurred in Capricorn, activating your 8th and 9th houses, and also an opposition to Mars. Okay, that is activated on the 1st of January. Now, this opposition is a very interesting thing. It activates the 3rd house, which is what Gemini traditionally rules. And Mars in retrograde opposing the moon at this time period, especially with its conjunction to Pluto, point to basically difficulty in travel. It's important to also check and double check your work as a student, to also check what kind of knowledge is coming into your periphery. I'm talking about the consumption of media, how to filter your algorithm in order so that you get correct information, especially about things that are abroad, things that are far away, that are foreign, that are exotic, having to do with wars or having to do with business, having to do with trends, okay? Future trends and predictions. There is a chance, in particular, for you to benefit from this new moon in a transformation that allows for you to align closer to what I would call closer to basically what would be the best sort of alignment towards a correct way of doing things. Okay, correct in terms of Saturn and its rulership in this cusp. Pluto being there means that it's going to be a pretty tumultuous time. It could activate a transformation for you that allows for you to align better with in terms of work and how you deal with money. Okay, a way for that to align better with future timelines. Okay, meaning that this is a time for you to address and assess your dreams. Okay, especially about what you would consider to be a dream job or a career or a standing in terms of that. Okay, and to let the square work itself out, the square in particular between Jupiter retrograde on your ascendant, okay, and then on your 10th house with Saturn. The two great teachers are in a square again in 2025, and Jupiter's in retrograde in Gemini, Saturn in Pisces, and then it squares up also the 7th house. This means that this is not a month in particular to get on well with those connections, I would say, that are not the best for you. There's a challenge in terms of the information that is being given to you or seeded to you from media, from your network, social or otherwise, and also from your friend circles. And you are called this month in particular to go through the changes and kind of find the source. Becoming resourceful is a theme for 2025. Reallocation, okay? Defragmentation. These are key things that allow for you to compartmentalize your relation to said medias, to social medias, to social algorithms, and to work on that. Mars in retrograde in the 3rd means that you don't have to act much at all this month in order for you to align yourself to what you would dream to be the best in terms of your career, your purpose, your mission. Further, there's something that is being shooken up by Uranus, which has been in retrograde in Taurus for a while now, that allows you to reassess your value system with Venus currently on your MC, and then it's squaring Uranus in retrograde. Now is the time to look into let's call them other timelines, future. Look into the future. And there's something about that that allows you to reset your value system when it comes to the translation of information or commodities, or the translation of scientific technologies into that in which you're supposed to be working for. Okay? Gemini has a distinct talent. Jupiter in retrograde does not bless them currently. However, in the future it will. You will gain gifts in terms of this square releasing itself, and the way you align to make money, and the way you align yourself to align with a career that is more suitable for your purpose. And it could be a very strange one. It could be a very different path. Allows for Gemini, at least in this new year, to design, or at least to foresee something of a trend and then capitalize on it. Okay, this is like having to do with spiritual work of some sort. Yeah, and I see it as an evolution of the karma houses, your first, your fifth, and your ninth slash 10th. It allows for basically a way to bring forward, once again, clean forms of information, not to be saturated by negative flows of information. This is all about regulation of flows of information this month. So yeah, it's not the easiest of times for Gemini ascendants, especially Gemini sun moon. Your ruler in particular is in the 7th house, and it frees up certain relationships. It could be that you were called to do something else, that you were called to also address karmic backlogs and clear those out. And it will be very difficult for you to understand why you're doing this. This square aspect in your 7th house of relationships does not bode well with Mercury, your ruler, and then the dispositor of that house, Jupiter, activating once again 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 houses away, Jupiter in retrograde. There's something about like a need to get away from even soul connections, even connections that are heavily infused with positive karma. You need your space this month and early this year to go ahead and address your mission, your call. All right. So it's a very interesting reading this month. Hopefully that's come as some sort of insight. Please take care now. Bye-bye. Greetings and welcome to the energy of Cancer. Welcome, my dear Cancerians out there. Please welcome to the channel. And also, we are working on the YouTube platform to look into the future. It's a glimpse in terms of January 2025. Now, 2025 is going to be a very particular year. A lot of people call this the year of ascension. I'm not entirely sure right now if I buy into that narrative 100%, especially because of the illusory nature of time and space, and its spiralistic fractal design, meaning that ascension can happen anytime. Anytime. The thing is that there is some research here when it comes to the month of January that talks about this narrative. Venus being in Aquarius, one of them, okay, as well as the new moon, which is triggered in your 7th house, in the 7th cusp, on your descendant, and then the moon moves into Aquarius. So it's the 2nd house away from Capricorn, right? And that, generally speaking, is your dispositor, the ruler of Cancer, okay, the Lord. And because of that, there is something about your resources, your resourcefulness around this time period that becomes triggered. especially on the 1st, the moon and Pluto go into opposition with Mars in retrograde here in Leo. And that stimulates a block, a challenge, especially with your wealth. The theme here is finding independent modes of wealth, ways to value your wealth in terms of spiritual, ethical concerns, to know that your wealth comes from a positive place and that it is positively generated without any negative karmic residue, let's call it. What does that mean? It means that there's a possibility for a transition at this time and space in January, especially early January, late December. It has to do with your idea of relationships that lead to commodities of wealth. Okay, meaning that something about you attracts karmic timelines. Okay, especially for Cancer ascendants, karmic partners, and that necessarily isn't a bad thing. Karma gets such a negative reputation in terms of the spiritual community. Karma is actually a good thing also. It produces the very active force, the mangal, the manas also, the ability to bring forward realities that are meaningful for the human experience. Karma is what you have to do, sort of thing. And the new moon stimulates this, and it occults. The moon is occulting when the sun combusts it over the energy and the cusp of Capricorn in the 7th house. And that triggers for you something. Primarily, it goes to Saturn and then Jupiter, which has its exaltation in Cancer, which is currently in retrograde in Gemini, and the 12th house. Okay, so I've been mentioning this on the channel already, that it's important to sort of discern what kind of information you get when it comes to blocks in your career or blocks in terms of your work. Because your 6th house is being activated with Mercury here in Sagittarius, there is a tendency for Cancers out there to sort of learn the lessons of the 9th and the 12th, to sort of go through the path of dissolution, to let things fall apart when it comes to existing structures of work and practicality, as well as your daily routine, to change those routines up while Saturn and Jupiter are, the two great teachers, are in square at this time period. They will give gifts. They are spiritual in nature. Also, you have to be careful when relating to, when going abroad, when learning higher knowledge, when being initiated on a path of spirituality. Be careful of the false prophet, the false guru, the one who says that they know better, but in actuality are still limited in terms of what they can attain from the great teachers at this time period. Okay, so that allows for a flow of information. Okay, for you it comes in the form of relationships, especially your own personal transformation and leap into the future. Venus in Aquarius is very, very powerful at this time, and Pluto's nearness to that, as well as the new moon, triggers your 7th and 8th houses here. And that allows for a movement from one business to another, from one timeline, karmic timeline, to another timeline. With Venus in Aquarius, that allows us to, on a collective level, okay, and for you in particular, it stimulates your house of dreams as well as ambitions. When it comes to this, it is important to seek out advice about past lineages, past timelines of you when it comes to incarnations, and figure out what kind of karma comes from there, and how to stimulate the dragon's head, how to stimulate spiritual technological research in terms of your standing and understanding in terms of where you've been and where you're going to, because they're one and the same. Where you've been and where you're going to are one and the same, at least in this reading in particular. The MC is activated with a stellium, okay, including, I would include Saturn plus Chiron plus the North Node, Vesta, and Neptune, meaning that there's a capacity for you to go deeply into timelines and to do a little bit of work there, to shake it up, okay? To shake up those timelines and to stir and to figure out what exactly is there. So I recommend doing research in terms of that, for the betterment of your career, for the betterment of the narrative and the line that you're on now, that you will be also potentially jumping from or to or away from. Okay. Yeah. So try to get that work in. There is also, let's see. There's something about whatever job you're in now or whatever career you're in now, what kind of mission you have, will be highly accentuated. And it's a spiritual one. It's in the cusp between Pisces and Aries. What is this cusp? It's the cusp of dissolution, meaning that things disintegrate, and then the Fool comes about. Things are known by the High Priestess, and the Fool and the Emperor move forward with prowess. Okay, at least in terms of an occult understanding through tarot. The 10th house is also activated. There's something about you potentially moving from timeline to timeline, moving from job to job, moving from relationship to relationship, and then they're one and the same. The same types of cycles need to be highlighted and underscored and understood and absorbed, and then sort of reflected on, let go. This allows you to go to the next chapter in your life around New Year's and moving into the energy of Aquarius come February. So it's a very interesting reading, this one. Kind of all over the place. Sorry if I've just been basically rapping on this one. If there are any questions, of course, you can always contact me. Otherwise, take care. Bye-bye. Hi there, this is Ron from tarotofthetwinsun. I'm working through the YouTube platform to bring a look into the future in terms of timelines for the month of January, the beginning of 2025. In terms of also tracking the movement of the sun as it progresses through Capricorn. Essentially, this reading is firstly a look at what is stable, and seeing how things are apt to go through a phase of transition with the moon. The moon becomes occulted late December, and by that it is hidden, and there's a new moon energy around that time that allows for you to establish a sense of work. Any blocks that you have during this time period will be illuminated clearly, and it's going to be a direct sort of push for Leos out there, because the ruler of Leo is the sun, the Lord is the sun. The new moon basically activates your 6th house and towards the 7th. So it would not surprise me if you had business relationships or blocks in terms of that, or perhaps that there is a hidden influence of a woman in terms of your achieving a sense of stability and daily routine in terms of your work. Okay. So very much this has to do with basically identifying with a way of doing things, a practical way of doing things, and accumulating wealth, and also spiritual insight at this time. Okay. When on a global level, on a celestial level, the outer world is having this square from Saturn in the 8th to Mercury in the 5th, and also to the great teacher Jupiter retrograde in the 11th in Gemini. This square certainly does produce for you an effect, and this has to do with trying to avoid complications in terms of your own transformation of your dreams, okay, of your ambitions. And it's now a time to check with the outer world how things are going on innerly in terms of your own expectation when it comes to work relationships, in particular, working relationships. the moon and Pluto become absorbed within each other's energy around the first, okay, here at the first degree of Aquarius, around that first and fourth degree of Aquarius, and mostly Aquarius. This activates your seventh house, and this means that any sort of soul connection you have in terms of karma, especially to mother figures, will be triggered at this point. Also father figures in terms of the Chariot. And there's a possibility to go through a process that will allow you to reestablish what you truly desire and what is lacking in your life. There's going to be a time when it comes to relationships, specifically soul relationships with a mother or father figure, or possibly the same sort of form that emerges onto a relationship, a personal relationship with soulmate or with a karmic partner. There is a chance to essentially come into an alignment of what it is you truly want outside of the connection during this time. And because Mars in retrograde, Jupiter in retrograde sort of oppose, okay, your seventh house, there's something about the way you identify your actions, the way your body language speaks when it comes to these connections that point to a dramatic change or shift in them, meaning that the mirror that they serve in terms of this points to freedom or points to a point of non-dependence, okay? And it shifts your goals, it shifts your ideas of what should deeply resonate with you in terms of relationships, in terms of romances, and in terms of independence from those, okay? Let's see. The North Node, which is Rahu plus Vesta and Neptune, are in conjunction, combined with, I would say, about 10 to 15 degrees of Chiron. It activates for you a way to define and restructure yourself and your actions, especially delayed reactions, meaning that the after impression, okay, there's an impression that we put out there, there's an after effect there that can be served in terms of representing what your darker side would mean. Meaning that even if the sun were to go and cross the horizon, it still exists on the opposite side of the planet. And just because you either sit in darkness or that the sun is not there, feels like it's not there, it will be in terms of providing you with a way to break through obstacles, sixth house, and to transform eighth house through this auspicious time period, okay? Mostly it has to do with a shift in terms of the collective mentality of spiritual communities and your way to align and rework towards that shift, okay? So I find it to be a stimulating month because of Mars in retrograde on the ascendant. You have to be careful of your actions and to sort of check or maintain automatic responses or automatic reactions to situations where you don't feel comfortable. This is truly a time for going inward and realigning yourself with certain paths that are seated in a collective conscious, and how to realign yourself as well. People who you are connected to deeply, they also feel the need to realign towards this type of shift. It speaks of independent energy, okay? Independent energy in which the intellect can cross over and ascend to the heavens. Hopefully that helps. Take care now. Bye-bye. Greetings and welcome to my dear Virgos, Virgoan people out there. Welcome to the channel. This is Ron from tarotofthetwinsun. I am working here on the YouTube platform to bring insights and looks into the future in terms of future timelines for the star sign Virgo. Welcome. So firstly, when it comes to this time period, it's going to be interesting. Very much an inward look into January the 1st, 2025. January, the new year basically is heightening a very intense square in terms of relationships. Okay, the seventh house is squaring. That's Saturn and Neptune are squaring your fourth. Okay, so when this happens, there's a chance in this time period that dreams and other states of meditation will bring forward conflicts with others, meaning that you would have to sort of really look within and go outside in order to find a sense of equilibrium in the mind. Meaning that there's something about your daily routine that goes through a lesson that's had through Jupiter. Jupiter is 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 houses away in retrograde in Gemini. Okay. So it's not the best time, I would say, for working with your descendant. Even though Venus is directly on your descendant, there are way too many squares that have to do with your seventh house that kind of force you to go really inward this month and to discern who is the best influence for you, because of the affliction, I'm gonna call it, of Saturn and Jupiter in retrograde going off at a square. The only goodness I see out of this from the 10th to the 6th house. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, so around the new moon that occurs late December, there is a chance for you to apply yourself to your work and to go through the shift on that, to go ham on your work routine, how you attain money, how you stabilize your energy and get rewarded from Saturn eventually. Okay. And this has to do with treating things professionally. Do not cross the line this month in terms of breaches of professional disclosure, in terms of keeping the professional life and the personal life completely, distinctly separate from each other, mutually exclusive. Okay, so it's very important to treat your professionalism and any seeds that you plant in terms of your professionalism during the new moon will bear fruits. Okay, so there's this creative energy that binds you into the possibility of bringing light, okay, to Saturn, and that allows for primarily rewards, personal rewards, when it comes to your own creative ambitions, to your own sort of ability to work with either children or romance, okay, and stimulate solar energy at that time period. It's very much a time to check yourself when it comes to influences. When Jupiter in retrograde goes in square with Saturn in Pisces, Jupiter's in Gemini in retrograde, and then it squares up the fourth house, your ruler, Mercury. The idea here is to look to Jupiter to find a way when it goes direct. Okay, when Jupiter goes direct, there is a chance for a freeing up of old cycles, okay? Old, outdated cycles. So check your information. Make sure that the people that you would say call teachers or leaders in terms of the influence of knowledge upon your own constitution, who you define yourself as, what is your own inner domicile, your inner house, the fourth house, what exactly is going on in terms of your dreams and your ambition to follow a type of program. Make sure the influences and your resourcefulness is coming from a heightened place. And be careful of false prophets or gurus or pundits or people who try to influence you in such a way that it would limit your own mental self-expression of who you are fundamentally, okay? So it would be best around this time to create order in your domicile, to create order around the place you live, what you identify to be away from the workplace, okay? Or if you are working from home, to beautify with and reallocate sources in terms of this beautification process, bringing in beautiful deities, for example. Feminine deities would be really, really good around this time in the home place, okay? So, one more thing, there is a major transformation in terms of the 5th and the 6th house for you that is coming into contention with Mars in retrograde opposite the 12th house. So when this house is activated, your 6th takes the 4. Okay? Meaning that when Pluto and Mars and the Moon and Mars activate around the 1st, there's going to be a way for you to gain either wealth or notoriety or make certain relationships that are geared towards the future, Venus in Aquarius, on your descendant, directly on your descendant, that will pull in. It's like you have like a gravity, and there's this sense of like being at the right place at the right time when it comes to pulling in, okay, influences that come out of nowhere, good influences, other or new relationships that are tied to Neptune and Pisces, okay, and they would produce for you a way to get out of this block when it comes to knowing where or what you are working for or what you are working towards, okay? So I see here positive influence coming from that. People who have been through, let's say, a lot when it comes to their challenge to their own personal finances, their own personal stability, and you can learn from them. Okay, that's what I see with this month in particular. These activations are pretty clear. Watch out for the square between the two teachers, Jupiter retrograde and Saturn, as it brings a lot of negative influence towards your house of self, one of the houses of self, the house of home. So putting in order to the home front is very much important. That's what I see with this reading. Hopefully that helps. All right, take care. Bye-bye. Greetings and welcome to my dear Librans out there. This is Ron from Tarot of the Twin Sun. I am working here on the YouTube platform to bring a look into the future in terms of timelines for January 2025. We're in a whole new year, and there are a number of activations that I want to cover, particularly for this month and the month leading into the year of a type of ascension. Okay, there is a type of block that is activated when Jupiter in retrograde and Saturn interact in a square formation. Okay, Jupiter retrograde in Gemini, Saturn in Pisces. These are the two slow movers, the teachers of the zodiac. And there's a square here when it comes to the 6th house and the 9th house. And also a square that follows that up with Mercury in the 3rd house. Okay, so this is a month where things, generally speaking, go deeply within. They go deeply within for Libras out there, okay? Especially Libra ascendants, okay? With Lilith as well as the South Node on the 1st degree and in the 1st house of Libra here. Basically, there is a deep calling to go within and to find out the left side path. Okay, that means the intuitive information that comes through the ether as well. A yod is activated when the South Node is activated on the ascendant. Okay, your house of self, your house of self-representation, even a sun or moon in Libra in terms of this placement becomes triggered, okay? And it activates certain relationships here that should find benefit in terms of a yod formation. What is a yod? A yod is basically the finger of God, and planets or major celestial objects that incorporate the opposite house and the houses adjacent to them. So basically the descendant is activated, and then houses 7 and 6 would be activated. Saturn there, as well as Chiron, the North Node, and Vesta are here to provide a way to go through relationships as a type of change is activated. Okay, transformation big time. It's further accentuated with Pluto and the new moon around your 4th and 5th houses. Okay, so generally speaking, there are relationships that are out there that activate the 7th house, North Node in particular, and with Vesta and Neptune being there, the dreams of others becomes important. The ambitions of others becomes important, especially when dealing with soul ties, with relationships that matter. There is a motif of healing as well as information that comes through your relationships that allows for an activation of the Yod, Chiron, as well as Saturn, that are here with this conjunction. So there's a stellium activation away from the South Node, pointing to the Yod formation, to the North Node and the planets around it, the celestial objects around it. There is a chance to heal up on relationships and also address the Saturn square to Jupiter and Mercury, which allows for basically a block to be implemented on a spiritual level. Okay, a spiritual block in which you are trying to define yourself as the peacemaker in terms of relationships that are outside. It would not surprise me if you are in the middle as a mediator between various clients, various relationships, various familiar relationships that have soul tie energy, okay? And you're supposed to sort of be the one who perceives or is the messenger between these two relationships, or between these two different energies, two different people, okay? Could be good or bad, could be like a difference of opinion between two different teachers, two different gurus. Could be a difference between a mother and a father, the divide there. There's a chance to sort of take it easy when it comes to your own personal work regimen, okay? And the two teachers with their square allow you to take it easy and sort of be lighthearted about it. It's a very creative time. The new moon will stimulate in late December your 4th and 5th house cusp. What does that mean? It means that around that time, there is a move from cardinal water into fixed fire. And what does that mean? It means that the movement from the 4th to the 5th house produces a way for you to be independent and to gain from one teacher who is passive. That is Jupiter in retrograde. Now, when Jupiter is in retrograde in Gemini in the 9th house, there is an opportunity to choose one thing over another, okay? One pathway to another. And this choice in itself is a gateway that should produce positive outcomes, especially when it comes to your creative pursuits around this time, okay? Because your 5th house, it encompasses the cusp of Aquarius. This new moon stimulates a way for you to bring forward new ways of making money, new ways in building a client base for whatever work you're doing. Also, it allows for a potential shift in terms of your creative ambitions, and you need to be finding a way to set that out and to distinguish yourself in a time where globally there's difficulty in this idea of truly breaking through expansion, or truly becoming disciplined through limitations, okay? So it's kind of like the fine line between expanding and contracting, okay? Or the fine spectrum between contracting and expanding. And you're going to be able to define yourself, especially when Mercury takes movement throughout the month, okay? and then it'll stimulate certain connections that will bring forward a sense of right doing in terms of the work you're putting out there. So it's good to take it easy, to let money and to let things flow accordingly, to also let messages flow accordingly, and also to check your sources, be resourceful in terms of where you get your information, especially spiritual information. It is a spiritual time with the South Node and Lilith on the cusp of Libra, that allows for basically you to go deeply within and to see the actions of your karma, and also to play mediator for others in which they might come into conflict around this time, one party versus another, and you're sort of in the middle. And when it comes to this, it's good to not be attached to your creative pursuits, to also be living in terms of timelines into future potentials that are good for the Aquarian age. Okay, that means like not identifying too much into your own creative pursuits, into your own romances, to sort of have a fair hand when approaching relationships to others, friends, the desires of others, how they might not resonate with your own, and go through the changes and allow for goodness to come in terms of that. When it comes to the new moon, which is going to activate two cusps, basically, the cusp of Capricorn and Aquarius, your fourth house becomes activated. It's good to go in around that time and to check your work, to sort of be supported. Somehow, when you go into places of non-stress mentality, when you go into places that are static, that are a lot more stable emotionally than usual, especially around the new moon in late December, the movement provides for you the space you need in order to address certain blocks that are tied to relationships, that are tied to career, to especially mediumship, the middle point, the nodes that formulate career business structures. Okay, and what I mean by that is that you can see potentially why certain business formulas don't work, etc. And you can see the trends, and you can look to the future to provide the sort of transformation that would help all those concerned. That as you who play the middle point and don't take a part in the drama, you can help others and in turn help yourself to produce the outcomes that would be mostly benefited in the future with Jupiter when it goes direct. Okay, so that's a mouthful. Your ruler, Venus, is currently in the energy of Aquarius, okay, which means that there might be a block in terms of manifesting the sort of way we feel comfortable without being tapped into the grid, okay? So there's a tendency for a lot of people still being tied to old timelines when it comes to their own self-worth in terms of survival instinct, and being able to say make a certain image work socially so that they would not be judged by others in terms of, let's say, how big their purse is or how big their social media is or whatever constitutes success, okay, can be redefined at this time period when the global economy is essentially still in a very not well disposition, with Taurus, the eighth house, transformation and chaos, and latent chaos with Uranus in retrograde in Taurus, that produce a sort of way for you to understand the dreams and the visions of others, to understand that you are sort of in the middle and don't have to be the main catalyst for such changes on a global level, okay? Especially when it comes to redefining your own relation to what success is in a capitalist paradigm, an old capitalist paradigm, an old paradigm of the American dream. These can be set aside And this is a time for you to learn through others what their desires and ambitions where they're coming from. Because you'll find that when you deal with others, that they have these grand, spacious ideas that have nothing to do with any sort of practicality, and somehow they're still able to make some sort of living off of it. And perhaps you will find a way to deal with these people and to learn through them, especially in terms of what you would learn, say, through a client or with people in conflict with each other. There is a chance to sort of free up a type of information that's coming in 2025, and it will come, especially when Jupiter goes direct and moves forward in terms of the gateway of Gemini. Okay, so that's a lot said. The dispositor of Venus in Aquarius is Saturn, so that's one or two houses away, potentially one house away. There's a chance to define yourself in your work, no matter how abstract your work is. With Saturn in Pisces, there's a chance to make money because of the old idea that God or some sort of higher power will provide when the time is right, and the time essentially will be very ripe when the new moon hits in Capricorn in late December. Okay, so I see this as, generally speaking, a pretty positive but flip-flop reason. Flip-flop, not reason, but flip-flop reading in terms of what I see here for Libra. If we were to take Saturn in Pisces dispositor, it would be Jupiter, right? Traditionally, Jupiter rules Pisces, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's a chance to sort of start something in terms of where you are at, to implement, let's say, work in the motherland or work on an inner plane, and then you will be guided in the future, the near future, when Jupiter goes direct, which I will check the date on. Some sort of pathway of initiation. You have someone watching over you, at least in the spiritual plane, some sort of master, whatever you want to call it, that is watching over you, and they've got your back when it comes to timing, when it comes to the right lessons to glean from certain situations, especially when it comes to information coming from the astral planes. And that will be given to you when the time of initiation is correct. Jupiter retrograde in Gemini, the doorway will open, but the timing is just not right at this month, in this time and place. So yeah, that's what I see with it. Generally speaking, it's a very stable energy, could be very stagnant. It's a time to go deeply within. If you have access to a home or an ashram or a spiritual center, I recommend you go there. It is a time for pilgrimage, etc. Yeah, that's what I see with this reading. Hopefully it helps. All right, take care. Bye-bye. Greetings and welcome to my dear Scorpios out there. This is Ron from Tarot of the Twin Sun. I'm doing a look into the month of January for the energy of Scorpio. Welcome, Scorpio, ascendant, moons, and suns, etc. Welcome, Scorpios. So we have here a first degree reading on January 1st, 2025 at about 1:12 a.m. and the new moon basically has activated for you the third house in particular, which is encompassing the cusp of Capricorn, and it is auspicious. Generally speaking, there's going to be definitely some kickback when it comes to good karma. That's Saturn, that's in tight square with Mercury as well as Jupiter. But it gives you something in terms of good friends, alone time from those friends, not having to deal with that, avoiding karmic timelines, okay? But karma is coming down like a thunder on your MC with Mars currently opposing the moon and Pluto in the cusp of Capricorn and Aquarius. What does that mean? Well, Saturn is 1, 2, 3, about 3 houses away from the new moon, and that allows for basically Saturn to bless you in some sort of way. And what is Saturn? Saturn is currently in Pisces in the 5th house, which activates a solar program, and it brings solar information into your friend circle, also within your family, especially brothers and sisters in your family, within your city. And that is a good thing. It's a time to stay home, absolutely, and to avoid karmic timelines. Like I said, Mars in retrograde creates a manglic sort of disposition when it comes to ego getting in the way, and the outer world's sort of activating the ego of a collective, okay, people that are tied directly to your place of work, the outside world, anything that's opposite your spiritual center, the home, the IC, okay? And this is auspicious because it will sort of allow you to avoid, if you will, negative karmic timelines, like I said, and having to do with ego expressions that are out there, especially in the workplace. And yeah, I would advise not to participate in the actions that are hidden or suppressed. The sort of like kind of momentum that you get from people, this energy that is suppressed, and it's causing the ego to behave in erratic ways around this time. You will gain money, and there will be a chance for you to essentially be supported by communities of wealth. And this wealth is a redistribution model. It's not just the kind where you have to work for it. This is the kind of wealth that comes especially with Saturn placed in Pisces. And because of this square that is occurring here, it adds a dimension to your chart that activates the 3rd, the 5th, and the 7th houses, okay, which are very positive houses to have this activation. And it allows you to connect with true people, not just people within the workplace, but people who have gone through a lot. And especially with Uranus in retrograde in Taurus, they can provide you with the insight, the knowledge that you would seek in order to provide a sense of stability in the way you attract, in the way you bring in relationships, okay? And that's a very positive thing. So there is a 7th house activation of Taurus, which is kind of beneficial around this time. So it's auspicious for creating relationships that mean something and avoiding karmic timelines with work. So I'm not just asking you to be lazy. I'm just saying that there's something about this that speaks about the square that's occurring between the two great benefic, malefic teachers of the sky. And that's in the 5th, 8th house, Jupiter in retrograde in the gateway of Gemini, plus Saturn in Pisces, plus it squares up to Mercury and then makes an opposition here with Jupiter in retrograde. So it's kind of a T-square. So it's best to avoid talk. I would say talk or talk about like about the disposition that you are in when it comes to survival instincts, when it comes to the value of money, stuff like that. It becomes like an unwritten shift, I want to call it. It's like a shift in the way we perceive monies and economies of spiritual transactions, all of that. It's all energy, and there's an unsaid code that is emerging that should produce a lot more in terms of good relationships when Uranus goes direct. Hopefully that's somewhat soon, within 2025. I haven't looked into it. Plus, when Jupiter goes direct, there will be a boon that allows you for a deep transformation, opens up the gateway of Gemini, and it produces for you a gift. Okay, what is that gift? The gift is ruled by Mercury, 7 houses away. It's a new relationship that is based on the Hierophant's energy. It would not surprise me if you were to invest or be paid off for investments, okay, to reinvest and to be paid off for old investments around that time period. When Jupiter goes direct, when the cusp of Gemini, the gateway of technological advancement as well, the gateway of the soul, and the pathway of initiation is initiated in the 8th house, that 8th house of occult, your house placement basically. And that's very powerful. Okay, so yeah, that's some of the stuff I see here. There's one more thing. Your ruler traditionally is Mars. A lot of people say Pluto's in the 10th house. It's very important not to participate in toxic relationships that have to do with trying to get away from a mother figure, or a mother figure trying to cut the umbilical with the sun. I want to call it. Yeah, that's the very best I can do for you for now. I do see it as an auspicious month. Take care. Bye bye. Greetings and welcome to my dear Sagittarians. This is Ron from tarotofthetwinsun. I am working here through the YouTube platform to bring a look into the future for the month of January 2025. This is a screenshot of the 1st of January at about 3:12 a.m. for Sagittarius, and the ascendant is on the 1st degree here. So this is for placements in the ascendant, but then you can also read for Sun, Moon, Venus, etc. Any planetary placement within Sagittarius. Welcome, my dear Sagittarius. Firstly, Mercury is on your ascendant and activating the 1st house. So there is a chance that the way people perceive you will be phasic. Okay, meaning that you're going through a phase, or that you can go through the energy of the 3rd house, which is you may appear as a friend, but then beware the friendly stranger sort of thing. There's a dual aspect about you, where the mind is split from logical and creative, from dark and light, and there's a tendency for you to slip inside and outside of realms, okay? So you can be something of a traveler this month. You can identify yourself through travel, for example, especially short-term travel, not short-term, but short-distance travel, within your neighborhood, within your city, within your state, blah, blah, blah. There is a chance to activate something when you do that. Now, because Mercury, the 1st house, is square to the 4th and square to your 7th, it's going to be difficult to find alone time at this time, and there will be influences out there. You're going to be a student, basically Mercury. You're going to be a student of learning through relationships, and how you need to pull back from relationships in order to discern a lesson. Jupiter, the great benefic, is in retrograde in Gemini, and it's squaring up your 7th house to the 4th house, Saturn. Okay, now when Saturn and Jupiter get into a square, then major things go through a shift. This is fundamental in terms of your home, and also relationships that are tied to the home that go through a shift. Okay, not the easiest of times. However, you can gain money. The 2nd house becomes activated with the new moon in Capricorn. So there is a chance to be ambitious in the turn of the moon at the end of December into the month of January. The activation, the seeds that you plant there will create a sense of work, okay? And it will be harmonious with the triplicity of Earth. Okay, so there's a trine here from the 2nd to the 6th. This means that work, generally speaking, will be okay, will be good, and your dreams will align to the 4th house and activate some more money coming your way. This is about a very practical time period in which you can focus on work instead of relationships, and that would be a very positive thing for you in terms of also your greater aspirations, in terms of Jupiter eventually giving you a blessing in your 7th house to make work connections that give you gateways to, once again, the phasic possibility of jumping from timeline to timeline, for example, especially in the future when your relationships and your house of self as well, your house of your inner self, your home, isn't so afflicted, okay? Beware of false information coming from Jupiter in retrograde in Gemini. They're in the 7th house. Generally speaking, the outer world as well as relationships will give you also a potential for information, but this information may be faulty or it doesn't have the insight, especially because it is afflicted with Saturn And Jupiter and Saturn, they don't create the harmony that you need in order to produce, once again, good information that comes through your relations with the outer world, okay? There's more. Your dispositor, Sagittarius, your ruler, of course, is in retrograde here. It opposes Mercury. So if you are identifying as someone who is jumping and seeking out timelines, the best way to activate it is through your hands and your feet and essentially moving in a skillful way, maneuvering through timelines. And when Jupiter goes direct and isn't so afflicted by Saturn, there is a possibility of a gift of a type of information that comes from the ether, okay, that will eventually sort of be understood. This is not a good time to be around teachers or older people or gurus for information. Their information comes from a fear program, okay? And with the moon and Pluto squaring up the energy of Mars in retrograde in Leo in the ninth house, basically it's difficult in terms of, once again, finding the right information. So it's going to be a challenging time. The year is supposed to be a year of ascension, and there's supposed to be a sort of end of Kali Yuga, which is basically the end of a way of Saturnian thinking. Okay, and with all this energy and Venus in Aquarius, there is a chance that things will be shifting big time in 2025 in terms of a narrative of ascension to get away from Kali Yuga and into a golden era, which is a positive narrative. A lot of people are subscribing to that. Yeah, if you want, you can subscribe to that, and it will basically it will help you align to making the jump into what we would call a new earth, or a new vibrational way of living that is sustainable, that has future sort of longevity, that has sustainability and ecological, spiritual concerns with the use of technology. All of this is possible in the Aquarian age, which is where we're supposed to be at, where we're supposed to be going. Okay. Let's do some house of houses. So Jupiter is in retrograde. Once again, when it goes direct and it's not so afflicted by Saturn, there is a chance for a gateway for you to open. It comes in the form of a relationship with a soulmate in particular. I can tell you more about this. So it's designed through Mercury, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, naturally 7 houses away in opposition to Mercury. So as Mercury starts to progress, and it will very, very quickly, there are chances for you to define yourself through primarily your first, second, possibly 12th and 3rd houses. So it's this cusp here from the 12, 1, 2, 3. And basically it allows for a progression into Aquarian energy, which is a good thing in terms of non-dependence, independence, being able to be unique, eccentric, to live by what you would consider to be passion, or even passionate, less, sort of ways of projecting into a calling, or receiving a calling and then following through with that in terms of a relationship that comes through that. It activates when Jupiter goes direct. It's very interesting. Yeah, I see that. I see that for this month in particular. So a bit all over the place. Sorry for the delay, but that's what I see with this, my dear Sagittarians. Hopefully that has come with some sort of insight. Lastly, house of houses. Mercury is in Sagittarius, and then it goes to Jupiter. So it's going to be mutual. Whatever or whoever you attract, it's going to be a mirror. And once again, when Jupiter goes direct, there's going to be a gateway for you two together to go through to a portal. That would be a fantastic sort of possibility for realizing Aquarian ideals. Okay. All right. Hopefully that helps. Take care. Greetings and welcome to my dear Capricorns out there. This is Ron from Tarot of the Twin Sun. I am working on the YouTube platform to bring forward looks into the future with timelines around January of 2025. We have here a reading for the 1st of January at about 5:20 a.m. And we're looking at the first degree of Capricorn and using that as our bearing for a House of Houses reading. So you can use the ascendant, sun, moon, etc., any planetary placement to read this, and there are going to be certain activations. Now, firstly, there is a new moon that is about 15.51 degrees in Capricorn, and it activates the first house. That means that the seeds that you sow now, especially when it comes to business, when it comes to work, when it comes to service, when it comes to being there for people, which Capricorns, generally speaking, are. They are the rock and the foundation and the cornerstone of every foundation. There's always going to be a Capricorn there. When it comes to this, the sun occults the moon, and it activates something for you, a type of programming that allows you to radiate with a certain degree of energy. Yeah, so happy birthday to Capricorns out there also, this new moon. It allows for a natural flow of emotional content that is usually hidden. And because of that, your ruler, Saturn, will teach you the lesson 1, 2, 3. There are going to be people who will be very supportive in terms of your environment. That is like your 3D world reality, third house, Saturn. And it allows you to define yourself and to also celebrate, to bring in a new solar year. And that is a fantastic thing. Saturn, which is your primary lord, is in the third house, and it does have a square to Jupiter. Now, when Saturn and Jupiter square up and then create a T-square with Mercury and Pars Fortune, okay, in your 12th house, there is a chance that misinformation can happen. What you need to do is go to those you rely on the most, especially brothers or sisters, the idea of brotherhood or sisterhood, going there within your city, also being supported by neighbors, being supported by those who are closest to you. These people will help you, and they will help you to bring in this new identity. As the year progresses, whatever you plant now will come into fruition. Now, this could do with certain relationships. It could do also with your business, in terms of your career or how you approach the outer world through connections, and make the right connections to bring forward something in the long run. By the long run, I mean when Jupiter turns direct and gets out of a square with Saturn, there is a possibility for you to bring forward a gateway in Gemini, Jupiter retrograde in Gemini, okay, and it activates your 6th house. So a block or any sort of blocks when it comes to higher learning, or perhaps finding the right teacher, finding the right influencer to give you the codes or the information that you need, okay, especially to be successful, to become fortunate, to have the right ideas seeded to you, Mercury and Pars Fortune, 12th house. In Sagittarius, a teacher will come and give that to you. It's not good to listen to their advice now. You might actually come into friction with these teachers, but in the long run, there is a possibility of some sort of breakthrough. There also is a major shift when the moon, as it progresses away from its new moon energy and plants the seed in Pluto, in Aquarius. There's a chance for you to see resources come in around this time, especially through the internet or any sort of collaborations or connections you have that have to do with business and technology, IT, all of this that are related to cloud or blockchain. There's something there where there's going to be a reward, and it will be quite immediate around January. It would not surprise me if things spike around that time, especially after the New Year's or during the New Year's. In the next day, there should be a spike in terms of income when it comes to shared resources of a global elite. Okay, so that's a tip there. We have here also, let's see, it would be Saturn in Pisces, and the disposer of that would be Jupiter. So once again, this square is not the best places to have a block in terms of your own spiritual development. In a way, your friends will perceive this and they might discourage you in terms of your own ambitions. Make sure to check these ambitions and wait for the right advice. They might tell you to turn away from false prophets, from anyone who would say differently in terms of a negative fear-based narrative. Just hold your ground and hold your horses. I think it's a very positive year for some sort of progression in terms of this square between Saturn and Jupiter. And when it frees up, there is a chance to manifest not only one job, but at least two. Okay, there's Jupiter retrograde in the energy of Gemini. So it could point to a change of job, a change of position when Jupiter goes direct. Also, some sort of wealth or a block in terms of your own career. Okay, and then switching or manifesting a new career in terms of that timing. The idea would be seeded through Mercury, and this conjunction between Mercury and Mars fortune in the 12th stimulates that. So it's really kind of a constrictor. This time period, you're going to find yourself outside of certain systems of fear and programming, and it's going to be a positive time to assert yourself and wait for the right timing, especially when Jupiter goes direct, to allow things to flow naturally when it comes to practical ways of approaching a spiritual calling. One of the goals that you could instill is translating economic wealth, material wealth, into spiritual wealth. That's one thing I would highly recommend for everyone, not just Capricorns, but for you in particular. Yes, that's what I recommend. So the idea is to check your channels. Make sure your money is clean. Launder it if you need to. Make sure it's clean, okay? That's what it kind of means. Hopefully that comes as some advice. I'll see you next month. Take care. Bye-bye.